Yep, I'll set the...
Are you going to sit here?
I like standing.
Patrick Canuck, please. Patrick Canuck.
Kind of a funny guy.
Council Patrick.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. I thought you were fooling around.
No, I'm ready.
Okay. Good evening and welcome. I'm going to present our speaker for the evening, who is Dr. Scott Werner, and from Utah. And he is a retired medical doctor. He used to practice obstetrics and gynecology, actually, here in Phoenix. And now he lives in St. George, Utah. He's also a very gifted healer and medical intuitive. If any of you know who Sylvia Brown is, she spotted him at an event one night, and she walked right across the room and said to him, "You are the most gifted medical intuitive on this planet." And I think that that is very accurate, because Scott has helped me and my family many, many times. So he will also be available in the next day or so for private medical intuitive sessions. And he tunes into your physical body and tries, or attempts to get to the cause of what's going on, and then he makes recommendations for what you can do to take back your health, which is the name of his book. So, with honor and great affection, I introduce my dear friend, Dr. Scott Werner.
Thank you. That'll come out on the video thing. It'll be cool. You'll go, hey, I was there when that happened.
Yeah. Someone attacked him.
Yeah, somebody attacked me from behind. Thank you so much. I love Scottsdale. I came here for 3 years, twice a year, doing intuitive readings, and then Mystic Moon bookstore closed up, and I was sad. But anyway, it was very, very good experience. I lived down in Mesa, Gilbert area, and practiced as an OBGYN with Partridge and Goodman down there, and very lucrative practice, made good money. And then my wife had us move back to Cedar City, Utah, and the income dropped by 600%. And they said, "Oh, but the malpractice is less up in Utah." And I was like, when I got there, and it's like not that much less for the amount of income drop. So it was kind of an interesting occurrence. And what got me involved in all this, I want to talk about the book quite a bit, but I think you need a little background on me. I trained down at Good Samaritan, down here at the Good Samaritan Medical Center in their OBGYN program. It was one of the top 8 in the country. My chairman was Dr. Cherney, and he spoke 18 different languages, had trained, he was dropped in Russia behind enemy lines in World War II as a spy. And it was really interesting. He helped get a lot of information, was able to be smuggled out, but just a brilliant man. But he expected us to be the top, and let me tell you, it was tough. He made us. He said that if we didn't get in the upper 90th percentile in the country with the OBGYNs, we would be kicked out of the program. And we were like always just terrified, so we just studied our butts off and worked hard. I don't think I got but 3 hours sleep in 4 years. It was quite a deal. But we came out of there very well trained. I mean, we knew our stuff, and the reason I went in to become an OBGYN was I figured if I helped the moms start off their pregnancies in a good way and talk to their babies. I mean, it was so interesting. I was always telling them, talk to your babies, send them love, You know, even before they would get pregnant, I would tell them these things. And it was quite fascinating. I had the lowest C-section rate. When I moved to Utah, the other OB-GYN had a 35% C-section rate, and mine was about 3%. And he started complaining about me because I wasn't doing enough C-sections. And what was interesting, out of all the babies that I delivered, I never delivered a bad baby. In other words, one that was genetic, had genetic problems or diseases, you know, they were all born perfect. And I really believe it was due to having the mom send love and light and comfort and just treating the baby so well. And we taught good nutrition. And because we felt even back then, this was in the 80s, that nutrition was very important to have a good, healthy baby. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called The Biology of Belief. And I was practicing that without even knowing it. And he found, and in his book, it talks about how you can change the genetics. If they have a genetic problem, you can actually change the genetics so that they're born healthy and strong and they don't manifest any of these bad genes or bad problems. And it was fascinating because all the women that I had delivered that had undergone my program of teaching them to love their babies and take good care of themselves, they all had perfectly fine babies. And the other OBs were a little bit jealous. And what was interesting was, I guess God had another plan for me, so I ended up having my finger get cut off by a chainsaw. Now that sounds kind of a little bit harsh to change your vocation, but I would have been an OB-GYN still now. I would have done it until I died because I loved it so much, but there was other plans. So I had to stop being an OB-GYN because I couldn't do the exams anymore. I couldn't do the surgery. I got kind of a palsy in this hand.
But tell them about your finger.
I guess I'm part of the lizard group because I'm regrowing my finger. I cut it off right here, and over the I cut it off in 1991. So it's been 20 years, but it's actually regrown and almost as long as the other one.
So they didn't reconnect it?
No,
It was chewed up in a chainsaw.
Tell them how
That chainsaw did a pretty good job splitting the bone up and everything. They're like,
you did it though. How
Oh.
you made it grow.
oh, well, there's many ways you can make things grow and heal, and we'll talk about that. But the important thing is what we're doing is helping manifest and helping our bodies be healthier. And so I think I went through all this so I would be able to write this book. I also have had stage 4 malignant melanoma, invasive malignant melanoma, and I was sent home to die because the doctors, that I was dealing with, they were the best in the country. And malignant melanoma back then, there was no chemotherapy that worked for it. Surgery would have left me paralyzed or dead because there was 3 tumors on my brain and 3 on my spine, and there's no way they could get them all without causing major damage. And so they told me, go home, have a happy rest of your 2 months to 3 months, and we'll see you later. And I was like, oh, I'm finally making good money. I'm finally doing what I love to do. I don't want to die. And so I went home and I prayed. I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I said, I need answers. And the only answer I got was the name Hulda Clark. And as some of you know, Hulda Clark wrote a book called The Cure for All Cancers. And in that book, she talks about this stuff. But I didn't even know about this book. I went to my work the next day and I found an article by a Dr. Hulda Clark out of Chicago, Illinois, who's the same person. And I called her up and we talked for an hour and a half, and she told me how to cure my cancer by doing parasite cleansing, Eziac-T, cat's claw, chelation therapy, and many other things. And like I told my friends here, she told me to divorce my wife. And I was at the time in a religion that you don't divorce anybody because you're married for time and eternity and you work it out even though you hate each other. And so it took me a while. It took me 12 more years of being married, and finally we ended up getting divorced. I wanted to have a very loving divorce, but she was wanting all the money, and that was the biggest problem. She really liked the money. And when I started doing alternative, I started making much less money. And so her attorney said, oh, he's probably making the same amount, he's just hiding it well. And so he told her that I had offshore accounts and houses in Florida and Hawaii and Arizona and California, and it was really fascinating because he ended up getting indicted for the same things he was blaming me for. And he's still in prison. But it's interesting what happens to you in your life, and people reflect what they're thinking. And so if we're thinking we're diseased, we will be diseased. So everything starts with our thoughts and our emotions. And so this book is about that sort of thing. Now, let me tell you the history of the book. I was writing a book called Manifesting Your Health, and I wrote 8 chapters, and then all of a sudden I stopped for 6 years. I didn't write a thing. And it was a good book, but it needed 8 more chapters. I'd actually had it all diagrammed out, but I got so busy it was like life sort of took over. And so the angels said, okay, we're going to stop you in your tracks again. This was interesting. Anyway, a year and a half ago, I woke up with this stabbing, like a knife was stabbing in my stomach. And being an intuitive, I said, okay, what's causing the problem? And they said, it's your pancreas. You have a stone in your ampulla of Vader, which is the common duct that brings all of the bile and mixes it with the pancreatic juices. And that duct leads into the intestines, and that was what was blocked. And so the pancreatic juices and the bile were combining, and instead of going out that duct, they were coming in and starting to eat up my pancreas, causing pancreatitis. Well, I woke up and I'm like, God, what do I do? And the spirit said, okay, you can go to the hospital. They'll probably do a Whipple procedure on you, and you'll die from complications. A Whipple procedure is when they take out the pancreas, part of the stomach, and part of the small intestines, and because they all have the same blood supply. And they found that's the most survivable surgery for pancreatitis. And yet 50% of the people getting the procedure die, which, from complications within a year. And with the MRSA and everything else, I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the hospital. What's my other option? And the angel said, go to Hawaii, eat passion fruit, papaya, and pineapple. And it will soften up the stone, and then go up into the caldera and do your toning thing. Now, I do this weird thing called toning, and what it is, it's God sounds that I put out of my mouth, and the angels add to it, because it's, a lot of times I wonder, how in the heck did I do that? But I get help from the other side. So I'm one of these voodoo people. So just bear with me, because it does work. And if it doesn't work, I don't do it. But this is very fascinating. So I went in to the kitchen. I told my wife, we've got to go to Hawaii. And she says, okay. It was December. It was 2 weeks before Christmas. And she says, okay, we'll go for our anniversary in February. And I'm like, no, not in February. I need to go today or tomorrow. And her sister-in-law was there. She was like, excuse me, her sister was there. It was my sister-in-law. And she says to me, Scott, we're going to the Big Island tomorrow. And I'm like, well, do you have more tickets? She's like, no. And I'm like, well, that doesn't do me any good. And I said, well, how'd you get the tickets? And she had this friend that works for United Airlines. And they were going to drive down to L.A. and catch the flight to Kona. And I said, well, can you get 2 more tickets? And she was like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, call the guy up you got the tickets from and see. And she called him up, and lo and behold, the angels were working behind the scenes, just conducting the whole thing. And his boss had given him 2 tickets that morning, 2 extra tickets. First class, even.
You didn't have to pay for him?
No! The angels took care of everything. So that's the first time I've ever flown first class. And we went to Hawaii, of all places, and it was so fun because first class, they give you you get laid and everything. So it's very cool. Well, anyway. But so when we got to Hawaii, a friend of of my sisters by the name of Lonnie Gamble went with us, and he is like the most amazing guy. He knows everything about fruits and vegetables and different things, and he knew where all the right papaya was and all the, and literally we went to all the different spots, and we picked it off the tree, right? So it was perfect, the best nutrition you can get. And passion fruit, oh my God, the passion fruit was the best I'd ever had. And the pineapple was organic, because most of the pineapple is not organic anymore. And so by eating this stuff, it took a lot of the pain away. It felt like something was happening. And then we drove up to the volcano, the active volcano there on the Big Island. And we hiked down into the caldera. And I'll demonstrate. I did a toning that was like this. I took my hands and I went, Om, and it created this big dome of energy around me, and all of a sudden I felt this thing pop in my intestines, and it was the stone, and all of a sudden I got the biggest relief. It was absolutely amazing. And so when I got home from that trip, I said to my wife, and this is my second wife, by the way, I said to my second wife, I said, I've got to go finish my book. I could have died and not left anything for, I've got a lot of information. I need to get it out. And so she said, how long do you need? And I said to the angels, okay, how long do I get? And where do I go? And guess where they told me? They told me I had to go back to Hawaii, but I couldn't make any plans. I couldn't get a hotel. The only thing I could do was get a rental car, and they would take care of everything else. So I had to go with faith. I mean, literally, I'm a planner. I like to plan my life. I like to plan other people's lives. I mean, it's like that. And so, anyway, I went and got a rental car. And when the angels are working for you, it's cool. Like I got on Priceline, and just on a whim, I said, okay, $7 a day for a rental car in Hawaii. Mind you, Hawaii is expensive. And I clicked the thing, and lo and behold, I got a rental car for 22 days at $7 a day. I mean, these things happen when you give your energy to doing what the other side has in store for us. So it's very cool. And so I arrived in Hawaii, and we had enough Hawaiian Sky Miles that it cost me $5 to fly there and $5 to fly back, because we had Sky Miles. And so the trip was being really inexpensive. And I arrive in Hawaii, and I'm sitting in the Walmart parking lot because I had to buy a charger, because I figured, I'll probably be living out of my car, because I was told to make no plans. And I'm sitting there in my car with this charger, charging up my computer, thinking I'm going to be sitting on the beach, riding and sleeping in this car, and hoping I wouldn't get thrown in jail for vagrancy. And all of a sudden I get this email that tells me to go. It was an email of a bed and breakfast, and it was over by Hanama Bay. It's my happy place. I go when I go to the dentist. You know how I get injected, and literally 24 hours later I start going numb, and then I'm numb for 5 days. And so I tell the dentist, don't give me any anesthesia. I'll just go to my happy place. And so I go to Hawaii and I swim with the fishes while I'm sitting in the dental chair, and it works because I never experience pain. It's kind of a self-hypnosis technique. Anyway, I end up 4 blocks away from Hanama Bay, and at this bed and breakfast, and they only charged me $20 a night, and they fed me breakfast to boot. I think the breakfast was worth $20 because it was fabulous. They'd get up every morning and fix this nice organic. They were vegetarian and organic breakfast. It was amazing. And I stayed there for 7 days, and then my wife called me up. She says, we were down in Hollywood going to the Grammys. They went to the Grammys, and we met a woman who lives in Maui, and you've got to go to Maui to heal her. And I'm like, I'm really having a good time writing my book. I've got a pool I can jump in if I get tired. It was fabulous, and nobody else was there. It was like the angels. Usually their house had 8 people. They had 8 rooms, and they'd rent out each room. And I was the only one there, so it was like they cleared everybody out so I could have a nice quiet place to write. And I was quite happy there writing, and I was having good experiences to write every day. And so anyway, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to follow the Spirit. So I hopped on a plane, and we had enough Sky Miles that it cost $5 to fly over to Maui. And when I got there, there was no hotels, there was no rental cars. And so I knew this lady from Fairfield, Iowa that was staying there, and literally just before I left Honolulu, this woman had called me telling me she was in horrible pain. And so I did my voodoo and got her out of pain. And she called me up 15 minutes later and says, "Is there anything I can do for you?" And I says, "Yeah, I'm coming to Maui and I can't get a rental car or anything, so I need a ride." So anyway, she picked me up at the airport and took me to this woman's house who was having severe problems with pain and chronic fibromyalgia. Just a beautiful woman, but she was in horrible condition. And we did a healing on her, and she was so grateful she let me stay in her condo while she went and stayed with her boyfriend. But her condo was just, there was repairs going on and cars going by. It was the most noisy place. It probably had paper for walls, and it was just too noisy to write. So I kind of said a little prayer, "Hey angels, this isn't good. I can't write here." And so they said, "Well, call up Ann Musselman and she'll find you a place." So I called up this lady by the name of Ann Musselman, who was another person I'd helped in Hawaii, and she says, "Scott, I'm really sorry." She was a real estate agent and did rental properties. She says, "Everything's filled up. You came in February. This is whale watching time, and the whole island was full." And she said, I don't have anywhere for you to stay, but you can go to an event with me tonight out on the Sugarman Estate." And I'm like, "Sugarman Estate? That sounds kind of fun." And so I found a little motorbike, a scooter to rent, and so I'm buzzing down the road with my clothes and backpack on my back, and just down, and everyone's honking at me, waving, and I was like, "Oh, I must look pretty funny on this," because I had all my stuff with me. And I get down to the Sugarman Estate, and it is the most beautiful place. I mean, lush green, the palm trees just swaying, and the volcano in the background just majestic. It was the most amazing place, and you could feel this energy flowing down from the volcano out into the ocean. And I asked somebody, what is the deal with this place? "Oh, don't you know this is where a vortex is, and it comes off the volcano and goes out, and the whales and dolphins love this place," because they were jumping just a couple hundred yards off the shore. And so anyway, I went scuba diving, and it was just amazing. And then this guy shows up, and mind you, I had on my manifestation board for 7 years when I started my first book that Wayne Dyer would do the foreword for my book. And I even had a picture of the book with the title and foreword by Wayne Dyer and all this stuff. And who should show up at this event? Wayne Dyer. And I was able to talk to him for a full hour. And he said, "Scott, if you want me to write it for you, I'll do it." And I was like, "Well, thank you, Wayne." And it was way cool. And what was interesting about the whole thing, after that was done, the feeling to have him write the foreword went away. It was like it didn't matter. It was like the angels will take care of the forwarding of the book. So it was fascinating. But there was this most interesting guy at the event. It was a man by the name of Michael Shane with a Y, M-Y-C-H-A-E-L, S-H-A-N-E, and you can go to michaelshane.com, and there's a video of me and Wayne Dyer and all the people that were there. There wasn't that many. There was about 16 people. But this man would literally spew gems out of his mouth. Way cool. I was sitting there watching going, how does he do that? And it was just an amazing thing, and I had the feeling I needed to bring him to St. George, and I actually brought him to St. George in January. And maybe I'll bring him down to Scottsdale. Who knows? He's way cool what he does. And he brings the most amazing messages. And why I'm bringing this story up, this is post this book. mind you. This has all happened after I got the book done. Go ahead.
What was his name? Shane?
Michael, M-Y-C-H-A-E-L,
Oh.
Shane, S-H-A-N-E. And if you
Okay.
just do michaelshane.com, it'll take you to his thing, and you can
Okay.
find videos
Thank
and
you.
all kinds of fun stuff on YouTube. And he runs the Ascension Foundation. Anyway, when we brought him to St. George, it made me very curious. Now, why is he bringing these gems in? Because I'm always a curious cat. And he really didn't even know the answer to that. I asked him, why are you doing this? He's like, I don't know, I just can do it.
I do it because I can.
Yeah, he had actually trained under a Reinhold, or Reinquist, up in Seattle, Washington, who was a deep psychic and had unusual transphenomenal energy. And he started doing it at the age of 19, and then he got sick and tired of doing it, so he quit and became a truck driver. And then after 10 years of truck driving, he got injured truck driving, so he had to quit doing that. So in order to make a living, he started doing this transphenomenal gem thing. And it was so fascinating, because when I asked the question, this guy came to me and he said, Scott, I want you to meet somebody, but you have to Skype her. She's living in England, and she is the queen of the fairies. And I'm like, fairies? I love fairies. Oh, if you get to know me, you'll go, man, this guy is whacked. But anyway, I had an experience 5 years ago where I met a couple of fairies. A very amazing experience. And anyway, so I'm very interested in fairies, but that's a whole other story. It's in a different book than this one. And it'll be done sometime.
Could we ask a question?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, she was just saying I didn't know fairies were real.
Oh,
So
yeah.
But when you say they are they real in spirit, or are they actually walking around as humans?
I'll answer that with a story.
Okay.
5 years ago, I was walking my dog down the road. I used to love to walk my dog down to this area because the Virgin River runs through the area. Nobody's ever seen its bottom. That's why they call it the Virgin River. So anyway, there's a bunch of willows down there, and they all, there's lots of bugs and lots of frogs, all kinds of stuff. And I stopped to take a leak. Use the bathroom. Excuse me, but I had to go. And anyway, I was standing there, and all of a sudden this orb appeared in front of me. And I was like, well,
Uh-oh, I'm busted.
I haven't been drinking, I haven't been smoking anything. It was like, what in the heck's going on? And what's going on with my eyes? And this orb, it kind of became white, like you see in the pictures, on digital pictures. And it started coalescing into a golden, clear orb, and inside of that was a fairy. A fairy in a blue dress with blonde hair. And I was like, holy cow, I really got a good imagination. And anyway, she said, thank you. And I was like, well, thank you for what? And she said, thank you for wanting to help clean up the planet. I was like, well, I'm doing my share. I recycle, I'm doing my little thing. And she says, there's going to be a man come who is very important in cleaning up the planet. And he's going to come and he's going to be very sick. And since you heal people, we want you to take care of him. But we want you to study witchcraft. And I'm like, what? Witchcraft? And she said, he has spells that have been cast on him because they want to keep control over him. And you need to learn about spells so you can undo them. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. I thought I studied medicine. Now I'm going to do what? So anyway, to make a long story short, a month later, 3 of them appeared to me and said, he's coming very soon. You need to be ready. And I'm like, okay, I'm studying witchcraft.